Thank you. I'm a designer, and I build worlds. And in the next few minutes, I'll take you from the Sex Pistols to Sylvia Earle, from God Save the Queen to God perhaps can save the oceans. But first, let's start in Borneo. I was born far outside the status quo, a middle-class baby in an engineering family in Sarawak. The jungle was my playground, comfortably switching between English and Indonesian. My formative years were one big cultural mashup on one continent and then another. Because at the age of 7, I began an even stranger life at single-sex Quaker boarding schools in England, where I'd see my parents just a few times a year. So imagination was my survival kit every step of the way. So an unusual outsider childhood, followed by politicized schooling. Quaker peace rallies were a regular event, compounded by the brewing disgruntlement of 1970s Britain, meant that by the time I entered a well-respected fine arts college in London as a painting student, I was already primed for disruption. It was in the air. And then, literally, disruption swaggered through the door. I was the social secretary at college. A scruffy kid came in off the street one day asking, "Do you want a band to play for free tomorrow night, mate?" I said, "Of course." The band was the Sex Pistols, and I'd just booked their first gig. I walked into their show wearing a button-up jacket and walked out taking a razor to my hair. Everything changed overnight. My worldview, my aesthetics, my desire to rattle the status quo that I'd already felt outside of as a child. My art became more provocative, and a teacher tore down my final show. I started working for the Sex Pistols right away. Designing T-shirts led to designing indie magazines and record sleeves. To me and so many others, punk demonstrated that disruption can represent powerful change and create immediate results. In the same way that the Sex Pistols serendipitously walked through the door, so then did Iggy Pop, asking, "I've heard about this thing called music videos. Do you know anyone who could do one?" I had no idea what a music video was. It was 5 years before MTV, but of course I said yes. So some friends and I pulled together the one filmmaker we knew and a photographer to do the lighting. And when I turned a refrigerator on its side and stuffed Iggy inside, I was suddenly a production designer. One music video led to other music videos, and music videos led to commercials, and commercials led to feature films. And then in 1999, Steven Spielberg turned my production design practice upside down. He hired a screenwriter and me on the same day. The film was Minority Report. There was no script, and Steven gave us just a couple of facts. The year of the film was 2050, and there were precogs who could predict crime before it happened. With these few facts, I began imagining a world in which the film could exist. If precogs predict crime, then people would want to be closer to them, so the city would become more populated, which would make the architecture go more vertical, and perhaps transportation would go vertical as well, and on until we created an entire interconnected ecosystem of geography, politics, economics, and culture from which the film organically emerged. From day one, my team and I enlisted cutting-edge experts in a range of fields, science, engineering, architecture, etc., to discover what was coming down the pike so that we could envision a future reality, not a science fiction. And the world we created for Minority Report indeed gave rise to new technologies: gesture-based interfaces, driverless cars, voice activation, flexible displays, biomimicry, iris scans, 3D video. Today, over 100 of the film's imagined technologies have been patented. So Minority Report was disruptive in many ways. For me, the most profound disruption was starting with a world instead of starting with a script. I quickly realized that this new design process we'd created, world building, could apply to fields beyond entertainment. So I think every story ever told was for humans to make sense of the world around us. Originally, these tribal stories were told to help us survive. Maybe they should again. So we start with a human at the center, and we look for the logic that threads the world together, good or bad, in balance, in a horizontal slice, sort of through the whole world space. And then we interrogate the world with a series of vertical dives, pulling core samples of detail from the parts of the world we need to know more intimately. Each vertical investigation makes the world more robust and more honest. The human stories at the center of the world find their place in the community to which they belong and then the larger world. Each scale is influenced by and has influence on the other in a fluid, non-linear accumulation of knowledge. We see that by creating the entire holistic context that surrounds a problem or a question, world building can work in the service of real-world problems and real-world impact, unearthing solutions that can be tested, realized, provoke people to action. And so I created a design studio, 5D, a multi-platform, cross-discipline design studio that practices world building. 5D specializes in designing for immersive experience, driving technologies, and generating stories that have emotion and purpose. We work with a wide range of clients, from the MIT Media Lab to Boeing, from Nike to Intel, from the Royal Shakespeare Company to a Bedouin tribe in the Saudi desert. Most of our clients initially view disruption as launching small changes, not altering their larger framework. Helping clients move towards bigger, more challenging, impactful world-scale changes is central to what we do. And this disruptive thinking has brought us together with some profoundly disruptive collaborators, like Sylvia Earle, who got me thinking about the ocean. See, I told you we'd get there. In many ways, the ocean is the biggest and most misunderstood client anyone could have. All 93 million miles of her, square miles of her. Why is it so difficult for people to understand that our life, our lives, humankind, depend on the ocean? In essence, I think it's because when people imagine the ocean, they think of its surface, sun glinting off the water, or what they can observe a few feet below, or on the shoreline. It's not as though we can take the lid off and peer inside. Since most people never go diving, we will have very little frame of reference for understanding the scale and nuance and the problems of the ocean at its depth. But what if we could understand? What if we could bring the experience of a deep scuba dive or submarine trip to a third-grade science class in Kansas, or a museum in Washington? What if we could bring Sylvia's vision for saving the ocean to the widest audience possible worldwide? With immersive technologies and interactive storytelling, we can. Imagine, you put on a virtual reality headset, and a magnificent column of ocean water forms in front of you. This column, a hope spot, one of Sylvia's marine sanctuaries, expands. As you reach your hand towards it, you pass right through. And suddenly you're inside, in 3D, in your very own submersible, surrounded by ocean life, 360 degrees. You can move down, deeper than even divers can go. You're surrounded by beauty. But soon you notice fish caught in plastic six-pack rings. More human trash surrounds you. Now your body starts shaking and you hear a deafening sound. You look up, massive boat propellers above your head are thrashing the water. As you move down lower, you see more and more of the ocean's degradation. You reach the coral, it's dead. But then a guide beckons you closer. She holds a time light, like a flashlight, that can scrub back and forward through time. She waves the time light over the coral, and in a matter of seconds, the coral transforms. The ocean transforms, becoming healthy, regenerated, vibrant, and alive. These emergent technologies provide an unparalleled opportunity to bring this experience of hope, a positive story of the ocean's future, to all of us in a deeply tangible way. What if this experience allowed kids to swim through their marine biology class, tasked with discovering as many coral species as possible? Why not let people of all ages observe an octopus's ability to blend with the ocean floor or be surrounded by bioluminescent creatures, as strange, beautiful, and evocative as any science fiction? The outputs of an ocean world build can go far beyond this VR experience. For communication across television, film, consumer games, new forms of education, data visualizations, advocacy, and awareness programs. The end goal remains the same, sparking wonderment and curiosity in order to inspire common purpose and creative action for our ocean in the real world. These explorations can enliven our collective and deep connection with the ocean. It's deep in our DNA. Working together towards restoring the ocean's health will become a goal that humankind can share. I'm a designer and an optimist. I build worlds. And there's no world more important to build, no stories more important to tell than those of our ocean for our own survival on Spaceship Earth. Thank you.